Yo, yo, it's Tony B here. Today we're diving into the Red Hood #1. A comic that made waves, not just for its story, but for the controversy that followed, written by Gretchen Felker-Martin and illustrated by Jeff Spokes. This issue was meant to launch a bold, new direction for our guy, Jason Todd, but one day after the release, DC Comics pulled the plug on the entire series. And in this video, we're going to look at the comic itself, its tone, its visuals, and the potential, without getting caught in the noise. So let's get into this bad boy. When I saw this was on sale, I actually bought this copy online, and I'm really fortunate to have it. I had no idea of the drama that was unfolding. I don't think anybody knew. It's very quick. But starting out on this, this is a really cool introduction to the Tower, this antagonist. And we really don't know what this Tower is. And there'll be some more Tower stuff in here, but what we know is it seems to be some kind of mind control. That's all I can derive from this, but it's a great use of paneling with an iPhone or smartphone. I thought that was very unique. Jeff Spokes is really the highlight of this book, and we'll get to more of that later. And the writing's good too. I thought the writing was on point for what they were going for, especially having Jason Todd, with all his trauma from the past. I mean, the guy was beaten to death by the Joker with a crowbar. I mean, that's never going to go away. There's a lot of isolation and a lot of violence with his character. And he's really the unique part of the Bat family to me. He's always been that way to me. And this book really sets that up, where this first shot of him, he's doing his investigating. He's a detective at heart too, just like Batman. And he's all bandaged up and scarred up. And it's like he's fresh from a fight. And the only thing I can derive from that is possibly his fight with Batman and Hush. I'm a little fuzzy on that. So the delays of Hush affected my interpretation a little bit in this book, but it still didn't, the book still held up for me. And we'll get to that. And it really wastes no time establishing, Jason does have a fractured psyche, and he has a rejection of the Bat family ideals, and we'll get to that. That'll happen here later in the book as well. So he's in a city called New Angelique, and this city itself can be a character. And there was something else that I noted about this city that was interesting, where, I mean, I know it's in France. I'm from America, but it set up a sense of alienation that the character has with his rejection of the Bat family. And just being in another city of that had an alien feel. If you ever go to a foreign country, you know what I'm talking about. So I thought that was a great decision to put him in a city in a foreign country, just to kind of reflect that ideal. And the writer does an excellent job of describing the city itself. They even bring up Apocalypse Now, a scene from that, which really drew my mind to Apocalypse Now, and it created a connection there, another visual of the heat, the humidity. And any place like that is miserable, and it usually creates violence. I mean, just look at, so here we're introduced to the character Royale. And I don't know who this character is, and it really didn't matter. It just, in a very short time, they set up that this is someone that Jason Todd trusts, and he needs information, and he's trusting this person. So I had this trust myself, like, okay, he's going to get his stuff from Royale. It's kind of a cool name. Is that since they're in France, is that like a Royale with cheese? But anyways, hey, if you know, you know. So he does there's a lot of introspective thinking, and he even mentions what happened in Gotham with Batman, that he's not on speaking terms with Oracle. So there's things I feel like that I'm missing out, and I just think that's part of that delay in the Hush book. So the Huntress comes in, and I've always liked the Huntress. That was another thing that pulled me into the book, was the Huntress was on the cover. I've always thought the Huntress was cool. And her teaming up with Jason Todd was another appealing factor to me. So it was like a win-win for me. And they're quipping back and forth, and he pushes her away just to reinforce the whole rejection of the Bat family and increase his isolation. I feel like he's increasing his isolation so he can heal, like in a cocoon, and then come out of that. And I'll show you why I think that later. There's a few pages later. And here we get another. So it's definitely a fight he had with Batman, because he's like, you should see the other guy. And I mean, it's Batman. And there's always trauma and pain there with them too. So yeah, this is where we get the mention of maybe it's a telepath controlling the victims. So he just pushes her away. She's cool with it. And the writing here is really good. Like it talks about his raw skin. And this is where I'm talking about coming out of cocoon, where he's losing the bandages and he's revealing himself. That's probably a little deep. I don't know, but that's just kind of the way I feel about what I'm looking at. And he does have somewhat of relationships. They show a little bit of that. So he even provides more introspection here into the whole Hush arc. And it left me thinking, well, where did he jump out of the Hush arc and end up in New Angelique? Was it just right after this issue? Those following Hush, you know what I'm talking about. They have a fight in the Batcave, and it's pretty brutal. And he leaves with Hush with the Joker, and that's an unresolved arc right now. But is that when he exited? That's hard to believe. I would think it seemed like he was a main character in Hush, but that's what delays do right there. So another thing I noticed is he's wearing half a mask. I mean, that could be maybe he's fractured. He's not the whole Jason that we've been used to, or he's becoming a new Jason. So he goes to meet Royale, and this Jeff Spokes, I'm telling you, this is where Jeff Spokes is. He's the standout of this book, and it's right here where it really got me. The paneling right here it's awesome. It really displays a cinematic view where it's like the stacked horizontal panels create a cinematic rhythm that mirrors Jason's emotional claustrophobia. Because if you notice, look how thin the panels are. I thought that was genius of Spokes. These artists are pretty smart. And if the writer was involved in this, they're smart as well. You know what I'm saying? This book was not written badly. I was going to get issue 2. But let's keep going. This cinematic edge here is fantastic. And even, more on Spokes is, the moody urban backdrops that we were looking at, they're just amplified by the story's tension. And he also does a great job of the expressive character work in the faces. Spokes did a great job, like right here. So he's starting to put the beat down on these guys. And then out of nowhere, I had no clue this would happen, because they set us up in the beginning thinking this Royale character was to be trusted. And this was a brilliant move. So Royale attacks Jason. Now that made me wonder as well, is the tower controlling Royale? Or is there a group higher up that are controlling Royale, in some way, blackmail maybe, who knows? Or is it mind control? So you're left with all these questions. That's what's great about comics. And that's what's great about this one. But this was another shocker to me. it made me think. Um, I thought we were past that. This part of his um, taking people out. You know what I'm saying? But he even his head is kind of looking away, like he doesn't want to do it. But it's like his rebirth. It's you can rebirth to an earlier part of yourself, I believe, and I think that's what's being conveyed here. And Royale is shocked, and it's just thump. Love that paneling, close quarters, and it's also that's not the Bat family code. So that's another. This guy, this is when he said, "Hey, I'm on my own, and it's for real, and it is in stone." So then we're introduced to a lieutenant. God, what was her name? Lieutenant Forrest. We're introduced to Lieutenant Forrest, and they don't know who Royale is. They keep that a big mystery, and I think that's important. So they do a little, they're doing their work, and she goes home, and I really love this kind of washed out. It's like underwater tones there. Like outside the house is more creepy than the inside, because then when you go inside, it's all bright. So Jeff Spokes just nailing it. And you even notice that here, the muted tones. It's like this new Angelique city. It's pretty bad. So she's talking with her family, and she wants them to get out of town with what's happening. And still, you have more of these really narrow panels. Like it creates that sense of closing in on you. This is really brilliant stuff. So they agree, they're going to do it. And I had this thought, and I don't think I'm right, but I was like, does she know a little bit more than what she really knows to initiate this? Or is it just the whole controlling of the police and having them commit the acts you're committing? I think it's the latter. She takes a quick call, and then she gets another call back. And this is why I wanted to get the next issue, the muted colors, the whole unknown caller, and see the expression in the face, like la di da, and then she gets it, and then we get this right here. This is the tower, so she's getting. You don't know. The double pupil was extremely interesting. It was like, she her expression shifts from confusion to just terror. And it's a very surreal moment when the iris splits in two. It's like a grotesque double pupil, and I feel like it suggests that she's now seeing the world through two lenses, her own and the tower's. Like she's a conduit of it. And it's also a loss of autonomy. It implies that the tower doesn't just influence, it can rewrite. So are we dealing with an antagonist that can control people, and it looks like it's going to convert her? And if others can be converted, and when I say converted, it's almost like infected. So if you can be infected, others can. And who's the most vulnerable person in this book? It's Jason Todd. If he's going through a rebirth cycle, the most vulnerable person, and is this a metaphysical force that alters reality? Or it might just be a Nero hack, suggesting that the tower uses advanced surveillance and psychological warfare. Could be a visual cue that the tower is becoming real, manifesting in the body of a victim. But we're not going to know, which really sucks. So was the Red Hood one a missed opportunity or a misstep? That's up for us to decide. What's clear is that, the comic aimed to push the boundaries stylistically and narratively. While its cancellation was swift, and controversial, the issue itself stands as a snapshot of what could have been, a bold new chapter for Jason Todd. So drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk about where Red Hood goes from here. It's a main character. It's not just going to die off. And, let's see what DC does. Outro.